Jake wiped the grease from his hands, tossing his work rag aside. "I'm done," he muttered, walking out of the garage for the last time. No farewell, no second thoughts. But what he didn't know was that in just 2 weeks, a decision he made today would come back to change his life forever. The sound of wrenches clanking and engines rumbling filled the small auto shop, but Jake Carter had already tuned it all out. He had spent 5 years breaking his back in this place, working overtime, fixing cars that no one else could, keeping the business afloat while his boss took all the credit. And today? He'd had enough. "Jake," his boss, Ron, barked from across the shop. "That Benz needs to be done in 20 minutes. You want to stop standing around like an idiot and get to work." Jake clenched his jaw, his grip tightening around the wrench in his hand. It was always like this. No thank you, no appreciation, just demand after demand. He had skipped lunch, covered shifts, even worked weekends to keep this place running, and yet it was never enough. "Yeah, I got it," Jake muttered. Ron scoffed. "Damn right, you got it. You should be lucky to even have a job." That was it, the final straw. Jake dropped the wrench with a loud clang, ripping off his work gloves. He turned to face Ron, his pulse pounding. "You know what? I'm done." Ron blinked. "What?" Jake pulled off his shop apron, tossing it onto the workbench. "I quit." The entire garage went silent. The other mechanics paused, watching the scene unfold. No one had ever stood up to Ron before. Ron let out a dry laugh. "Oh, give me a break. You think you're going to find something better? This is all you got, kid." Jake exhaled sharply, shaking his head. "That's where you're wrong." Without another word, he grabbed his jacket and walked out. He didn't have a backup plan. No safety net. Just a gut feeling that staying here meant wasting his life. As he stepped outside, the crisp autumn air hitting his face, he expected to feel panic, regret. Instead, for the first time in years, he felt free. What he didn't know was that in exactly 2 weeks, his entire world was about to change, because someone was about to come looking for him. 2 weeks had passed since Jake walked out of that garage, and to be honest, it hadn't been easy. At first, the freedom felt incredible. No more barking orders from Ron, no more working his fingers to the bone just to be treated like garbage. But reality hit fast. Bills were piling up, and job offers weren't exactly flooding in. He had put out applications everywhere, dealerships, repair shops, even considered starting his own business. But nothing had come through yet. Now, as he sat on his small apartment's worn-out couch, staring at a pile of unpaid bills, he started to wonder if Ron had been right. "You think you're going to find something better? This is all you got, kid." Jake clenched his jaw. Now, he wasn't going to let that old man be right. Just as he was about to get up and check job listings again, something strange happened. A deep rumbling sound filled the air outside his window. It wasn't just any car engine. It was smooth, powerful, expensive. Jake frowned, pushing himself off the couch. Who the hell in his neighborhood could afford a car like that? He stepped outside and froze. A sleek black Rolls-Royce Phantom was parked right in front of his building. The kind of car that screamed money, power, and importance. And then, the driver's door opened. A man in a navy blue suit stepped out, polished, confident, and clearly not from around here. He looked around, then locked eyes with Jake. "You Jake Carter?" he asked. Jake's heartbeat picked up. "Who's asking?" The man smirked, reaching into his pocket and pulling out a business card. Jake took it hesitantly, his eyes scanning the words. Alexander Grant, CEO, Grant Motors. Jake's pulse slammed in his ears. Grant Motors, one of the biggest luxury car manufacturers in the country. What the hell did a billionaire CEO want with him? Alexander tucked his hands into his pockets. "I heard you quit your last job." Jake narrowed his eyes. "Yeah, what about it?" Grant's smirk widened. "That means you're available." Jake frowned. "Available for what?" The CEO motioned to the Rolls-Royce. "Get in. Let's talk." Jake hesitated, glancing at the car, then back at Grant. Nothing about this made sense, but something told him, whatever was happening, this was the opportunity of a lifetime, and he was about to find out why. Jake stood there for a moment, his instincts screaming at him to be cautious. Billionaire CEOs didn't just show up at run-down apartment buildings looking for unemployed mechanics. Still, something about Grant's confidence told him this wasn't a joke. This was real. Taking a deep breath, he stepped forward and slid into the passenger seat of the Rolls-Royce Phantom. The door shut with a quiet click, sealing him inside a world of luxury he had never experienced. The leather seats, the sleek dashboard. This car alone was worth more than he'd make in a lifetime. Alexander Grant settled into the driver's seat, adjusting his cufflinks before pulling away from the curb with smooth precision. "Mind telling me what's going on?" Jake asked, his voice steady despite the storm of questions in his head. Grant glanced at him with a smirk. "I'll get straight to the point. I own Grant Motors, and we've been developing a new line of high-performance luxury vehicles, the best in the industry." Jake stayed silent, waiting. Grant continued, "We recently designed an engine unlike anything on the market. But there's a problem. No one can figure out how to fine-tune it. My engineers have tried everything, but the damn thing isn't performing the way it should." Jake frowned. "And that's got what to do with me?" Grant reached into the center console, pulled out a folder, and tossed it onto Jake's lap. "That's a record of every car you've worked on in the past 5 years." Jake's stomach tightened. How the hell did a billionaire get that? "You've got a reputation," Grant said, keeping his eyes on the road. "People talk. I heard about a mechanic who could fix anything with an engine. Someone who didn't just follow manuals, but actually understood how machines worked. Someone who could take apart a high-performance engine, find the problem, and make it better than before." Jake swallowed. He had always been good with cars, but he never thought anyone outside of his old garage had noticed. "You left your job 2 weeks ago," Grant continued, "and as luck would have it, I needed someone with your exact skill set, so I made some calls." Jake scoffed. "And now what? You show up in a Rolls-Royce and expect me to believe this isn't some setup?" Grant chuckled. "I don't expect you to believe anything. I expect you to say yes." Jake raised an eyebrow. "To what?" Grant pulled the car into a private lot outside a massive building, one of Grant Motors' elite research and development facilities. "To a job," Grant said simply. "Work for me. Name your salary. Prove you can fix what my top engineers can't, and you'll never have to work under someone like Ron again." Jake stared at the building in front of him, his heart pounding. 2 weeks ago, he was just another underappreciated mechanic. Now, a billionaire was offering him the chance of a lifetime. He exhaled slowly. "All right, Grant," he said. "Show me the engine." Grant smirked. That's the spirit. What Jake didn't know? This wasn't just about fixing an engine. This was about proving that sometimes walking away from the wrong place is the only way to end up exactly where you're meant to be.